Okay, I'd like to talk about an important change to capital gains tax. Entrepreneurs' relief has now been restricted. This previously gave a rate of 10% tax on gains realised by individuals on disposals of trading businesses or shares in trading companies. The limit on which this relief will apply has now been reduced from £10 million worth of gains to £1 million worth of gains, and will mean that many business owners will pay more capital gains tax on the sale of their business. The government is going to introduce a 2% surcharge stamp duty land tax rate for non-UK residents purchasing residential property in England and Northern Ireland. This 2% surcharge is on top of the existing stamp duty rates and could mean that a non-resident could pay up to 17% stamp duty land tax when purchasing residential property. A key change occurred to business rates. So businesses occupying properties with a rateable value below £51,000, their business rates are being reduced to zero. This is only for 1 year only, and it will include businesses in the leisure and hospitality sector, including museums, nightclubs, sports clubs, hotels, guest houses. The government is also aware that for those small businesses who don't pay small business rates, they didn't want them to lose out, so those small businesses will receive £3,000 to help meet their ongoing business costs. The annual tax on enveloped dwellings, which is an annual tax on companies which own properties above a certain value, the ATED charges will rise by 1.7% from the 1st of April this year. The government has confirmed that it's pressing ahead with the new VAT reverse charge on the construction industry. This charge was going to take effect originally from the 1st of October last year, but it was delayed to allow businesses more time to implement changes to adapt to these new rules. So they will be effective from the 1st of October 2020. It's a really significant change in the construction industry because it will alter who has to account for the VAT to HMRC. Instead of a subcontractor charging VAT on its invoice to the contractor it's working for, it will now be up to the contractor to account for that VAT to HMRC directly so that the subcontractor doesn't charge VAT on their invoice. The scope of services that will be caught by this new regime are the kind of services covered by the construction industry scheme. So it will cover a wide range of construction-related supplies, including construction, repair, extension, demolition. There are a number of services which are excluded from the scope of this regime, such as architects, surveyors, and professional fees. It won't alter the way that contractors currently charge consumers. Those rules will remain as they are at the moment. The government also announced a series of measures to help businesses mitigate the impact on their businesses of Brexit. One of these was the VAT rules concerning call-off stock arrangements. The government are now going to allow a business to remove call-off stock in one member state and remove it to storage in another member state without accounting for VAT on that transaction. The government is also consulting on making changes to the distance selling regulations. At the moment, an overseas business who sells goods to customers, individual consumers in the UK, has to account for UK VAT if their supplies exceed £70,000. The government is looking at overhauling those rules, particularly as those rules were originally very much EU-focused rules. The government has announced an important change on the taxation of the importation of goods. At the moment, when goods are imported, the VAT has to be accounted on importation. What the government have said is that VAT on the importation can be accounted for on the submission of the VAT return covering the period in which the goods were imported. This gives businesses an important cash flow break, and these rules will apply to the importation of goods from both EU and non-EU countries. The government is changing the way VAT is charged on e-publications. So at the moment, you've got a 0% VAT rate which applies to physical books, newspapers and magazines. Well, the government are extending that, the 0% rate which applies to those goods to digital publications as well. The government also announced a change to the agricultural flat rate scheme. At the moment, this scheme gives an alternative to farmers so that they don't necessarily have to VAT register, and it allows farmers to charge a fixed levy of 4% on certain services supplied to VAT registered customers. These rules are now being more restrictive, and businesses can only join the scheme if their turnover is below £150,000 per year, and they must leave the scheme once the annual turnover exceeds £230,000.